Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, we will go live to the Kavanaugh hearings as they get underway, anxiously watching as he's talking to us. Our great friend, David Bozell, foramerica.org, joins us now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Let's get our popcorn out. Let's go. Let's get this done.
You know,
I'm ready for some testimony.
You know, David, this reminds us of when we were probably many years younger than we are now, and what happened with Judge Bork and Judge Thomas. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting, though, and again, this is like reverse ageism, when I hear like the anchorettes that weren't alive when those hearings happened, trying to characterize what happens. You were alive, Correct. I was alive. We all know what went down, and that seems tame compared to what's happening today, sir.
It was tame compared to what's happening today because of social media, because of multiple cable networks, because everyone that is in the sports and entertainment complex seems to have an opinion on politics today. You can't avoid it. So you can't. It is bigger than Anita Hill and Judge Thomas. I don't think that the stakes are any bigger, but it's just the appearances. The media consumption and the media production, it's a huge spectacle. This is the Super Bowl of politics. Our Supreme Court nominees, these are the Super Bowls of politics. And then when you have accusations such as these, it just ratchets it up even further. So, but I'll be glad when it's over, Kevin. I won't lie about that. One way or the other.
You know, I don't know about that. I think that this is important that we have this out in the open, that we have the progressive left being exposed to what they'll do. And I think it takes, unfortunately, this extreme example to wake up Idaho, to wake up America and say, this is what has been happening. This is mission creep exposed, how the left has taken over America for the past 10, 20, 30 years.
This is... If this doesn't brand Democrats as crazy, I'm not really sure what does. And that may sound harsh to some folks, but and people who have listened to me come on here for a number of months now, I'm often critical of the Republican Party and their lack of get up and go, and their lack of results when it comes to policy, and some lack of skill when it comes to politics. But this, what you're seeing from the Democrats, is a whole new level of nuts. And we can try to pick a cause for it all we want. Is it that they want to protect the religion of abortion? Maybe, probably. Is it just to be able to create an impeachment dynamic down the road if Judge Kavanaugh got confirmed? Possibly. No matter what the motivation is, they, just as Senator Graham and the president talked about in your opening clips, they've destroyed this man's family and his reputation. He's sitting in poll numbers in the single digits. That's just a shame. He hasn't fought back as much, and perhaps hopefully those numbers will go up today. But I just want a good judge in there on the court. I think he's eminently qualified. I don't believe the accusers. To believe the accusers, you'd have to, I know the federal government can mess things up, but if the accusers are to be believed, what you're charging is that the FBI is grossly incompetent. And given the fact that Judge Kavanaugh was a staff secretary for President Bush, that's probably one of the most important spots in the West Wing. To have him go through that FBI clearance protocol and not have these things flushed out, you would have to take a stick of dynamite into the FBI and blow it up and start it all over. And that's how incompetent they would look. I just don't. I'm not a big believer in these accusations at all, and I think I hope Judge Kavanaugh will get confirmed later tomorrow morning.
Well, David, you know, this is emotional for everybody, and there have been a lot of people saying, Kevin, I can't listen to the show. It makes me too upset. And I'm thinking, no, this is the time you need to listen. You need to be involved, because if not, they'll continue to back us down. And really, these unsubstantiated allegations. And I have to say, I was watching your boy Chuck Todd the other day on Meet the Press, and there was a young lady from Politico on that actually she made sense. So if you don't believe Dr. Ford, you're anti-woman. And she goes, I'm sorry, I just can't go along with that way of thinking. And,
right.
You know, Senator Lindsey Graham last night on Fox News with Shannon Bream saying, look, it's irresponsible of NBC to be releasing this stuff. They never would have released this stuff if it had been a liberal person. It's crazy just how wacky they're going. And whether you're a son, whether you're a father, a husband, this is a smear of all men if this goes through.
Which has been going on for quite some time, in the sense that, you know, we've lost what it meant, not to get nostalgic and not to sound old, but there was a romantic notion of what an American man used to be. You know, the greatest generation coming back from Europe. And we've lost that. We've maybe that's, you know, we can get into some larger discussions about how Hollywood, you know, may be responsible for how men and women are presented in the popular culture, those types of things. These are bigger discussions. But I'm just not going to. And the president tried to get was baited, and thank God he didn't take the bait, because he's smart enough to realize what was happening. No less than 3 different times, the reporters, you know, asked him the same questions in 3 different ways. Are they lying? And speaking of the accusers, are they lying? Are they liars? And are you accusing them of lying? And it's just a false premise, you know, altogether. And he's right. You know, the elected official, being the president, I'm sure he has his opinions. I'm sure candidate Trump probably would have said, yes, they are.
Right.
President Trump had to be a little bit more reserved, you know, because that's what the moment called for. But isn't it wild to see the left froth all over this and just fall over themselves, trying to discredit this man and his family, and destroy this man, looking just militaristic in their opposition. And it was the same left that has been accusing that it's President Trump that's unfit. That's President Trump who's bombastic. That's President Trump who's crazy. That's President Trump who's going to embarrass us. I think the left needs to look in the mirror after this week and ask itself what kind of contribution it wants to make in American politics. Because this week has shown me that they're not interested in contributing. They're interested in destroying.
And we see that, and I like the idea that 11 men make bad optics, so optics determine credibility, optics determine decisions, and this is something horrible for the Republicans. Do you buy into that argument, David?
Not really. I mean, I don't think the Republicans should apologize that there's 11 guys on the Judiciary Committee. I mean, sometimes that's just the way the ball bounces. You're going to tell Mike Lee that Senator Mike Lee from Utah that he's not qualified he's argued in front of the Supreme Court that he's not qualified to, be on the Judiciary Committee. Ted Cruz, same thing. They're eminently qualified. I wish they were asking some questions. Truthfully, I might have argued against ceding the questions to this woman that they're going to bring up today, the prosecutor. But okay. They wanted to, maybe they didn't want to go into some sensitive territory that they weren't comfortable with. Okay, fine. But, look, I'm not going to, these men were hired by their constituents, by their states, okay? And this is where they got placed into a committee. They shouldn't apologize for being there. And nor should the Republican Party apologize for not having a woman on there. It's a flashpoint in history. Perhaps the next Congress they will. Maybe the Congress that preceded this, they did. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Right now, that's the 11 we have, and I'm proud of them.
Our great friend David Moselle joining us from foramerica.org. Kevin Miller in the morning here. I'm gonna, we're only going to talk about
Except
two things.
Except for Jeff Flake, I'm not proud of him.
Well, Flake, Corker, and the usual suspects. But finally, Rod Rosenstein.
Yeah, that'll be another fun thing that'll happen today. I don't think he will be fired as much as I think he probably should. I think now you're in a position where it's Trump owns him now. Okay. Maybe he looks at this perhaps as keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer type of situation. I think Mr. Rosenstein, when the president says jump, it's how high, Mr. President, from here on out, because of the comments that are being attributed to him. Maybe he gets let go down the road, but I don't think it'll happen today. Just a guess.
I mean, how crazy do you have to be to say something that stupid?
Especially in that spot, especially in the job that you have. I mean, maybe he had too many wines at a dinner party or something like that, and said something silly. But I don't know. Drunk man's words or sober man's thoughts. Isn't that the line? Something like that. Yeah, you got to be pretty dumb to be saying that sort of thing. But hey, hats off to the New York Times for covering it, for all the grief that the New York Times has gotten from the president, up to and including yesterday. It was the New York Times that has basically forced this situation upon the president and Mr. Rosenstein. So I think he will survive in the short term, and he'll be a very loyal soldier to the West Wing from here on out. As in his spot, Deputy Attorney General. I know the DOJ is independent, and we got to respect that. But there's people within the Republican apparatus, within the Republican Congress, that have been demanding documents that Rosenstein has refused to turn over. Okay, I think that kind of thing will stop.
David Moselle, foramerica.org, to be continued. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Have fun today.
You too. Take care.
Yeah, bye.
foramerica.org. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Currently, Chuck Grassley is continuing to talk to Dr. Ford when she speaks, and Judge Kavanaugh speaks. We'll go to them before Glenn Beck today. Dianne Feinstein getting up there. I guess these guys are making opening statements. Ray Amaya is monitoring. And by the way, big props to Ray Amaya for booking Stephen Moore, the economic advisor to the President of the United States. If you miss that, you can always go to our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com, and check that out, the 7 a.m. hour today. Let's continue on. Why not? We'll go to Conservative Steve on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning.
How's it going, Kevin?
Big day today, brother man.
Oh, you know it, brother man. It'll all work out, just like Trump said. I thought his, as dumb as they think he is, he's as crazy as a fox, if you know what I mean. He came on with that to answer questions and basically saying, well, of course I can relate to him. I had 4 women that were proven false accusations. The Democratic Party and the rest of them paid off one's mortgage for lies. Another one got like $600,000 or $700,000, and then Fox News is the only ones who reported it. And check your facts on that. That's a true statement. So I'm very familiar with what Judge Kavanaugh is going through right now. So I thought that was pretty cool. Second of all, Kevin, I think I agree with your caller there. Rosenstein, the rats are getting ready to jump the ship, my friend. Now that all this information and the texts and the tweets and the emails and all this stuff, and Andrew Weissman's involved in it, and Comey and all of them, all the way up to Obama, they're going to find out, as well as Hillary Clinton. And it's really interesting because the rats are jumping ship, and I think Rosenstein knows that he's been caught. That's why they don't want these documents declassified and stuff, because there's too much on all of them, and I think Trump has them right where he wants them. We shall see.
All right. Are you going to give me a let your heart not be troubled?
Let not your heart be troubled, my friend, for sure. And you know what? I think Trump's not going to deal with Rosenstein today. I think he doesn't want to change the subject and the attention to what's going on here and get it resolved, and I think he's right. You guys have no idea. The American women in here, the American women in America are absolutely disgusted of what's going on here, man. I know my wife and the ones closest to me are females as wives because they have young boys coming up, and they are furious. But the mainstream media isn't going to tell you that, but that's okay because we're the silent majority anyway. It's all good, my brother. Have a great day.
More of your phone calls next. Plus, we'll go live to the hearings. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. My man, Sean Hannity. By the way, Sean Hannity broadcasting this week from the Swamp, Washington, D.C. You want to make sure you listen to Sean. All the insights. I loved how he and Tucker Carlson were going back and forth, kidding last night on the Fox News channel. Remember, KIDO Talk Radio, your home for Fox News on the radio. And Kevin Miller's Money. The word this hour is bike. That's right, bike. So your chance to win up to $5,000. Type in bike. The more words you get, the greater your chances are on KIDO Talk Radio, KIDOTalkRadio.com. We drive on. And let's go back to the phones. And tomorrow we're going to be at Mountain View High School. Obviously, we're going to be promoting our school, securing our future with the kids there. And we'll be taking your calls on this. Your reaction. Who's believable? Who isn't? Who behaved? Who didn't? Tom in Nampa with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. Well, it was 2 days ago. I speculated there might even be a third accuser come on the scene with some accusation, and sure enough, here it is. And it's even more absurd than the previous two. This gal said that she was at parties where she saw guys standing in line to rape girls that were had got drunk. Well, if something like that had happened, wouldn't that girl who supposedly got gang raped, I shouldn't mention any name of anybody except that Kavanaugh was standing in line, wouldn't there be a girl running to a doctor or to the police the next morning that had been subject to something like this?
Or not going back to the same party 10 times after.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't get over the depth. I mean, this will get more ridiculous by the minute. And then this Ford, the gal, she's got sworn affidavits from people who said that, well, she told us years later of this happening, but that's secondhand stuff. I sat on a grand jury once, and that kind of information is worthless. You need, eyewitnesses, and there's no eyewitnesses who come forward. It's playing worse than a soap opera. Now, look at the situation the Republicans on that committee are. These men are considered chickens now because they won't cross-examine this Dr. Ford personally. They got a woman counselor doing it. So if they had questioned her then themselves, she may be called bullies. So they can't win either way. And I think there's one Republican woman in the Senate. I don't know if there's two, but she's from Iowa. So I think in the next Congress, Kamala Harris ought to be bumped off the committee. I don't think any state, even as big as California, should have two senators from the same state sitting on the Judiciary Committee. So bump her off of there and put that Republican woman on from Iowa, and then see them squawk about that. At least they'll have a lady on there.
Well, and the Republicans have three female senators, probably more than I know of. You've got Collins, Murkowski, and Joni Ernst, I believe.
Right. I forgot about those two. Yeah. Well, put Collins or one of them on there, and boot Harris off. Because again, why should one state have two senators on the Judiciary Committee? And she showed herself to be very rude. She was to the chairman, kept interrupting him.
Right.
And wanted to shut down. I mean, it's just bizarre.
It is bizarre, Tom. Got to run. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling right along. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. We go to the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, gemstatepatriot.com. Tea Party Bob, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
Living the dream, and you?
I'm always living the dream as long as you're on the air.
Now, you were concerned about is it the phone app or is it the signal that you have an issue with?
The signal is absolutely cutting in and out every 2 and 3 minutes. Driving me nuts. I had to turn it off.
On the app?
On the app.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I ran across an interesting fact this morning. Members of Congress, even those with sensitive committee appointments, are not required to undergo security clearance investigations. All that is required is they take a secrecy oath. How many members of Congress do you think would be able to withstand the scrutiny that Brett Kavanaugh has? You know, I doubt if any of your audience know this fact. When we go back to 2017, the House quietly changed the rules to allow members to keep their records hidden from ethics and criminal investigations. The change essentially makes the member of Congress the owner of and sole controller of any records he or she creates, regardless of whether these documents touch on public interest, such as use of taxpayer funds or the commission of a crime. Allowing House members to block access to their records destroys the critical element of independent oversight over government records and the members' activities. We should also be asking why the press has stopped talking about the slush fund for the members of Congress to pay off women for accusations of sexual abuse. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. The fact that Kavanaugh is being tried in the court of public opinion is absolutely criminal, and the liberal press has been leading the charge. All of these allegations are just that, allegations, with no proof whatsoever except she said this happened. It's time for the Republicans to grow a spine and vote this man on the court and stop running away from the libs every time they start shouting foul. If the people of this country don't think they need to go to the polls this November 6th and vote, they will be sadly mistaken, as this one is the most critical of votes in our history. And if it goes the wrong way, you can say goodbye to the great economy we have, and it won't be long before we're back in the toilet with more rules and regulations than you can shake a stick at. So all I can say is get your butts out and vote in November or go back to the Obama days. And I thank you very much again for my time.
Well, thank you, sir.
Have a great day.
Well, we'll stay tuned.
Okay.
Tom in Nampa with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Kevin. Just a point I had on the last person's accusing is she attended these 9 parties that are supposedly a felony rape committed at each party, that she had the responsibility to report a crime. And why would you go back 9 times? And then surely a friend to women, when she knows what's going on, doesn't report it, doesn't try to stop it, in fact goes back. Would she be responsible for leaving the scene of the crime or something that you have to report a felony if you know it's happening?
No, aiding and abetting, yeah. She could be an accomplice.
Maybe she should be brought up on charges.
Yeah, I would agree. That's
all I got. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning here. We have Dr. Ford making her opening statement. Let's take a listen to it here on KIDO Talk Radio. We'll take more of your phone calls, but here is Dr. Ford before the Senate.
That house, and that Brett and Mark were not coming outside after me. Brett's assault on me drastically altered my life. For a very long time, I was too afraid and ashamed to tell anyone these details. I did not want to tell my parents that I, at age 15, was in a house without any parents present, drinking beer with boys. I convinced myself that because Brett did not rape me, I should just move on and just pretend that it didn't happen. Over the years, I told very, very few friends that I had this traumatic experience. I told my husband before we were married that I had experienced a sexual assault. I had never told the details to anyone, the specific details, until May 2012 during a couples counseling session. The reason this came up in counseling is that my husband and I had completed a very extensive, very long remodel of our home, and I insisted on a second front door, an idea that he and others disagreed with and could not understand. In explaining why I wanted a second front door, I began to describe the assault in detail. I recall saying that the boy who assaulted me could someday be on the U.S. Supreme Court, and spoke a bit about his background at an elitist all-boys school in Bethesda, Maryland. My husband recalls that I named my attacker as Brett Kavanaugh. After that May 2012 therapy session, I did my best to ignore the memories of the assault, because recounting them caused me to relive the experience and caused panic and anxiety. Occasionally, I would discuss the assault in an individual therapy session, but talking about it caused more reliving of the trauma, so I tried not to think about it or discuss it. But over the years, I went through periods where I thought about the attack. I had confided in some close friends that I had had an experience with sexual assault. Occasionally, I stated that my assailant was a prominent lawyer or judge, but I did not use his name. I do not recall each person I spoke to about Brett's assault, and some friends have reminded me of these conversations since the publication of the Washington Post story on September 16, 2018. But until July 2018, I had never named Mr. Kavanaugh as my attacker outside of therapy. This changed in early July 2018. I saw press reports stating that Brett Kavanaugh was on the short list of a list of very well-qualified Supreme Court nominees. I thought it was my civic duty to relay the information I had about Mr. Kavanaugh's conduct so that those considering his nomination would know about this assault. On July 6th, I had a sense of urgency to relay the information to the Senate and the President as soon as possible before a nominee was selected. I did not know how specifically to do this. I called my congressional representative and let her receptionist know that someone on the President's shortlist had attacked me. I also sent a message to the encrypted Washington Post confidential tip line. I did not use my name, but I provided the names of Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge. I stated that Mr. Kavanaugh had assaulted me in the 1980s in Maryland. This was an extremely hard thing for me to do, but I felt that I couldn't not do it. Over the next 2 days, I told a couple of close friends on the beach in Aptos, California, that Mr. Kavanaugh had sexually assaulted me. I was very conflicted as to whether to speak out. On July 9th, I received a return phone call from the office of Congresswoman Anna Eshoo after Mr. Kavanaugh had become the nominee. I met with her staff on July 18th and with her on July 20th, describing the assault and discussing my fears about coming forward. Later, we discussed the possibility of sending a letter to Ranking Member Feinstein, who is one of my state's senators, describing what occurred. My understanding is that Representative Eshoo's office...
And there we have it. That is Dr. Ford. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Our phone numbers are 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So you've heard Dr. Ford. You've heard her emotionally tell us here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, of what occurred, how it came to being. Does she sound credible to you? That's really what it comes down to. How credible is Dr. Ford? Now, you've got all these other accusers that have come forward without any substantiation, and Dr. Ford will meet the press throughout the day. We'll be talking about it, obviously, coming up tomorrow. We'll be at Mountain View High School promoting our school, securing our future, and getting your reaction to this. Of course, Glenn Beck will have the very latest, Sean Hannity and Lars Larson as well. Here's what President Trump had to say. We'll get back to President Trump. We're having some audio difficulties here. We apologize for that. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you missed the president's news conference yesterday, he had quite a lot to say concerning these allegations against Judge Kavanaugh.
A lot of false charges made against me. I'm a very famous person, unfortunately. I've been a famous person for a long time. But I've had a lot of false charges made against me, really false charges. I know friends that have had false charges. People want fame, they want money, they want whatever. So when I see it, I view it differently than somebody sitting home watching television where they say, oh, Judge Kavanaugh, this or that. It's happened to me many times. I've had many false charges.
And we continue to hear the false charges going on and on and on, Mr. President.
It's a very dangerous period in our country. And it's being perpetrated by some very evil people. Some of them are Democrats, I must say.
The president, in an 80-minute news conference, holding nothing back. Here was the most poignant point that I thought.
This has everything to do with our country. When you are guilty until proven innocent, it's just not supposed to be that way.
That's right. That's more the European system of governance, of justice, than ours, Mr. President.
And they know it's a big, fat con job.
Your thoughts on what the president has to say? I'll share mine, and if Dr. Ford becomes subject to questioning, that for you as well. For complete Kavanaugh coverage, keep it right here to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio.
They're actually con artists because they know how quality this man is, and they've destroyed a man's reputation.
The president yesterday, as you heard right here live on KIDO Talk Radio, telling you what we're up against today.
It's a very dangerous period in our country. And it's being perpetrated by some very evil people. Some of them are Democrats, I must say.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, here is Senator Blumenthal on Judge Kavanaugh. Remember, Kavanaugh has not been, as David Bozell said, 6 FBI background checks. 6 FBI background checks, and not one thing found against him. So was the FBI incompetent or complicit? You just can't win these days if you're the FBI.
Brett Kavanaugh as seemingly raping a woman who has been drugged.
Right. Breaks your heart, doesn't it? It breaks your heart. And if the libs had their way, we wouldn't have our time together each and every morning because they fear the truth. They fear the righteousness. They fear that good men and women and families will stick up and reclaim their country. That's what they fear. And they should. Let's go to Caldwell and Holly with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. So I think she did a really good job crying. However, in reading some of the things that have been written about the letter itself and how someone with her education level surely didn't write something that was that badly written. I don't know if you've seen the article from Mike Adams on Natural News about that. The other point I wanted to make is she is a psychology professor, and for someone like her to say that she didn't know how to report a sexual assault is ridiculous. It was obviously a political event, or it would have been made to law enforcement, not to her political representative. And I think it's unfortunate that people think that it's okay to make up stories and to the point that maybe they believe them themselves.
Or to embellish stories, to destroy somebody's good reputation.
Yeah, I mean, and then the other caveat of this is the masses of people are listening to some of the things like you just played about how they drugged her and stuff. It's completely not even fact-based. And those people should be sued for slander, if not worse, if not some sort of criminal acts for spreading that kind of disinformation on purpose to get people upset. And unfortunately, it seems like the left is so unable to critically think, and if they can't, it's all on emotion and not on facts, and so then they just change the story or the argument because they know they can't win on facts. So
I agree with you totally. Look, if you're a psychologist, if you're this, that, and the other, it's very easy if you have a complaint. Call your congressional office. Why do you call the Washington Post encrypted line and smear somebody without giving them the opportunity? It's a giggle fest here. She's drinking coffee while Grassley's talking to her. This is really serious, these allegations and these charges.
Well, and I haven't confirmed this, but there was the thing that I saw on Facebook that talked about when Neil Gorsuch was up and that she made the post that someone needed to come forward with a similar accusation. Obviously that may be hearsay, so I don't want to use something I haven't found as fact. But
sure, fair.
I would.
Right, Holly, go ahead, please, quickly.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, are any of your other listeners becoming targeted on Facebook for re-education? Because I've had lots of situations when I share something,
right,
and then later on Facebook will come up and say, that's not right, but I know it's from confirmed sources that it is.
Well, Facebook, they tagged a buddy of mine for having a gentleman that wrote, the Jihad book. Holly, thank you for the call. Quickly to traffic and weather together. Then we will hear Ford versus the prosecutor. Good morning, Dave.
Eric Gabbard.
And what we're going to do is we will continue on with these hearings through Glenn Beck. So keep it here. If the hearings end shortly, we'll go back to Glenn Beck, but we will carry those right here on KIDO Talk Radio. Dr. Ford answering the questions now from the Senate.
Okay. Bystander means someone that is looking at an assault, and the person named PJ was not technically a bystander. I was writing very quickly with a sense of urgency, so I would not call him a bystander. He was downstairs, and what I remember of him was he was a tall and a very nice person. I didn't know him well, but he was downstairs, not anywhere near the event.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'd like to take that word out if it's possible.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. The second is the letter that you wrote to Senator Feinstein dated the July 30th of this year.
Yes.
Did you write the letter yourself?
I did.
And since it's dated July 30th, did you write it on that date?
I believe so. It sounds right. I was in Rehoboth, Delaware at the time. I could look into my calendar and try to figure that out.
Was it written on or about that date?
Yes. I traveled, I think, the 26th of July to Rehoboth, Delaware. So that makes sense because I wrote it from there.
Okay. Is the letter accurate?
I'll take a minute to read it. So I can read fast.
Take your time.
Okay.
And by the way, as a reminder, we will continue to carry these hearings on KIDO Talk Radio. That's 107.5 FM, 580 AM during the Glenn Beck program. We will break away for commercials, but we will bring this to you so you don't have to go anywhere, whether you're listening on the app or whether you're listening on the radio. We still love you listening to the radio on KIDO Talk Radio.